Hi, my name is Singh. I'm broadcasting from New Jersey on behalf of Stanford Online High School students from across the globe. So, hello world. With us here today is Lila Ibrahim, the COO of Coursera. It's a pleasure having you on the show. We really appreciate your time.
Oh, thanks. I'm really excited to be here.
So it's interesting because I attend along with my friends Stanford online high school, so we see the benefits of online education firsthand and the possibilities that it opens up. At Coursera, what do you see as the future of online education and the different opportunities it enables for people all across the globe?
Well, I'm really excited about what we're doing because I think it's exactly for like your generation and the generations that follow to be able to provide access to the world's best education, regardless of where you're at and what device you're using. I think about my own path and my own career, and I'm so thankful that I had really incredible educational opportunities. And I think Coursera just opens up the world for learners everywhere.
And certainly, you've seen over in some courses over 100,000 students, so you couldn't ever get that bandwidth at it from a physical location school.
Yeah, actually, it's interesting. When the founders started Coursera, they were teaching at Stanford, and one of the founders, Andrew, posted his machine learning class up on the platform. And in a typical classroom at Stanford, he'd have like 400 people. It was a pretty popular course. And then he got online and he found like 100,000 people were participating. And this isn't easy content. And he would be stopped in the streets by people who had just, random folks who had found the course online. And I think what he realized was that he could teach more people in a single course on Coursera than he could over his entire lifetime. And it was really just, I think for so many professors who are at these institutions, that's exactly what they're finding. Did you know we had a class that had over 260,000 people, and it was social psychology?
It's unbelievable because at a physical location, you can't find that many people have a single interest within 15-mile radius or 20-mile radius.
Well, especially if your classroom only seats 30. And I think what's really interesting is this professor actually did this day of empathy where he sent all of his students out into their communities to actually do some work that was related to what they learned. He got responses from China, from Africa, from Southeast Asia, from around the world. So I think it's not only about, like you said, the constraints of the limited of a classroom, but also really having a global footprint. We have about 75% of our learners are from outside the United States, and about half are from developing countries.
Yeah, it's truly a global audience. And there's so many options, whether it's Coursera or edX, LinkedIn. I've taken a couple courses from Udemy. I've heard of Udacity. So how does Coursera differentiate themselves, or are there certain advantages or unique characteristics to the platform, or any things that students can look forward to at Coursera?
Yeah, it's an interesting time because you're seeing more of these types of companies pop up. And I think what's really exciting is it gives a lot of credibility to this market in general. So it means that when you go and take a course from one platform or the other, like as you're looking for jobs or applying to schools, people will know more about it because it's not just a single, just one company trying to pioneer this path. At Coursera, there are a couple of things that we have, I think, to our advantage. One is just our footprint, if you want to call it. We have over 20 million learners on Coursera. So I think we're the largest and the most global, both in terms of the learners that we serve, but also the universities with which we partner to get the content online. And then part of that is one thing that makes us unique is that we do partner with the world's top universities around the world. So we have over 140 university partners. And in total, it's about 1,200 courses that they offer, and it's a wide range of topics. So there's career type content like business, technology, data science, and even social kind of interpersonal and soft skills that I think are really critical for everyone, regardless of what type of industry you work in. But then we also have content on topics like when I was in college, I got an engineering degree. So I didn't even have time to take some of the other courses I really wanted to in some of the arts and some of the history and political science. So I'm actually enjoying a few of those courses on Coursera as we speak.
Yeah, and this enormous reach that Coursera has, so many students, I think it's partially responsible for the help they've gotten from, KPCB, the, venture capitalist firm that, you're involved in. Are there any interesting, speaking of that, are there any interesting notable startups that you've worked with, or, stuff that's going on right now that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so I actually joined Coursera from venture capital, as you mentioned, and it was really interesting. So just to give you a quick background, I spent 18 years at a company called Intel. So, the computer chips, and my first job was actually designing computer chips. I then spent 4 years at Kleiner Perkins as in venture capital. So we got to really meet incredible entrepreneurs. One of the first companies I ever worked on was Twitter. When we were first considering the investment in Twitter, I got a chance to go and meet them and do diligence on them. Same thing with Coursera. I remember when the two founders came in and they were still professors at Stanford with this lofty idea and an experiment. So having a chance to actually analyze the background of the company and the professors to evaluate it. I made a decision to join Coursera full time. I came in on loan and thought this is pretty cool to have this type of career opportunity. So I actually gave up my partner status to be here full time. I'm very excited about it, but it does mean that I have less time to spend with startups.
Yeah, and you have so many things in your hands. You're appointed in 2014. This is a mouthful, to the U.S. Secretary of Commerce's National Advisory Council on Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Even the small name is actually pretty long. So are there any projects or areas of focus that you're working on over there, and that that we can be excited about for the future?
Yeah, actually, it's interesting. So the short name for that is NACI, and it's pretty cool because it's a group of innovators and entrepreneurs from across the U.S. and we help advise Secretary Pritzker on things related to innovation and entrepreneurship. So some of the programs we've looked at are how can we better support small businesses? How do we come up with common tools and encyclopedia of references for folks? We had a chance to go and visit Nashville, Tennessee, which has a booming entrepreneurial environment, including a lot of efforts around inclusion with their immigrants and just bringing more diversity to the startup world. And we're working on how do we replicate some of those ideas in other communities around the area. Now, I feel pretty lucky that I'm based in Silicon Valley, so I have a really cool chance to see a lot. But the innovation happens everywhere. There's smart people with great ideas everywhere. And part of what NACI is trying to do is make that more accessible to everyone, regardless of what zip code you live in.
Yeah, and Silicon Valley is also like a hub of innovation, and it's trying to get a foothold in diversity and attract people, women and people from different races to get interested in coding. So I've seen you've been have you been to the White House? I saw a tweet about the West.
Yeah. I've been to the White House. I was at the Vatican advising the Pope on some of the education policies. So I try to get involved in things where I can take my experience from Silicon Valley and really try to help other parts of the world. Yeah, that's kind of the fun part of I think what I get to do on a day-to-day or month-to-month basis. Another activity I'm involved in is I'm on a board of a public company that's going in media, and we're having a chance to kind of reimagine what the future of media looks like. So I think it's kind of neat when you get to your 40s. Hopefully you can figure this out before you get to my age, but when you get to your 40s, I think you kind of know what your strengths are and what your interest areas, and you have enough of a track record that you get a chance to have opportunities like this.
Certainly. Is the West Wing just like it looks like in House of Cards?
except for some of the photos, yeah. I'm off a season on my House of Cards. I need to catch up.
Okay, I just finished, and I was,
don't tell me.
Madam Secretary now. That's also pretty interesting.
Oh yeah, I like that one.
So, moving on to the topic about your high school experience, because that's where most of our audience is in right now, and they'd be interested in that. What was your young years like? Did you have any particular teachers or courses, or do you have any memories that stuck with you today, or you still look upon, or that have impacted you?
Well, one that feels very relevant for this week is I think in high school I was voted the most likely to be the U.S.'s first woman president. But I don't think I'm on track for that anymore.
Yeah, I think the nomination process is over, right? Not enough time left this year.
Yeah. Now it's interesting. I had a lot of experiences that were really set me on this path in high school. So the first is back in 1986, I was an exchange student in Japan. So I took off time after my sophomore year and I went through the Rotary Club and I went to a city of 40,000 people and I was the only foreigner. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm short, I have dark hair, I'm going to blend in. And not at all. So I had to learn Japanese and I got to go to high school there. And I thought I'm never going to have an experience like that again. But what happened as a result of that is I'm fluent in Japanese. And then when I worked for Intel, they sent me to Japan to work on some kind of standards that no one had ever heard of. They're like, why would anybody want to watch a movie on a computer? What is this DVD stuff anyway? So I got to go to Japan and like,
That's what kids now must think. What are DVDs now with everything streaming?
exactly. Now they're obsolete. But having a chance to do that, and then I lived in Hong Kong to start Intel's developer program, and then in Shanghai. So having that experience early on in my high school life really opened up so many doors for me in the future that I could never have imagined. The other is in high school, I really was challenged when I went to college. I wanted to study languages because I grew up in a household where we spoke like 4 languages. But my parents kept trying to convince me that engineering was really what I wanted to do. And so my dream was to be a translator for the United Nations. And when I had a chance to be at the UN headquarters and outside of the Secretary General's office, I thought, wow, I finally made it. 20 years later, in my career, I just took a circuitous path and ended up, being in the right place and having kind of a passion for it. I studied engineering, but I never let go of that global mindset.
And it's funny, I visited the UN and the building, the room where they have the Security Council last week. So it's pretty interesting. It's amazing.
Oh, how was it?
It's unique. There's nothing like it, in the world, where people from all different, nations meet. They work towards together to a greater world. So moving on to the next, part of the question is, looking back, is there anything you wish, you could have done extra? Suppose you had 10 extra hours in a week as a high schooler, something you would have, spent more time on or spent less time on anything. That way, the current generation of high schoolers can learn from your experience and, best use their time, make the most of their time in high school.
Yeah, that's a great question. Academics were really important to me, but I always spent time to volunteer. So I was in a lot of clubs. I did volunteer work, not only that was sponsored by my school, but also in my community. And I feel like high schoolers today, you have so much opportunity available to you. It's really finding things that you like, but also what you don't like. I think sometimes people are trying to diversify their resume versus saying like, let me find something I'm excited about and like double down and really focus, because then you get to bring your best self into it if you're really excited to learn and contribute. So one is make sure that you're well-rounded, that you get a chance, you try a lot of things. From that, figure out what you like and you don't like so that you can articulate it. Build off your strengths. Don't worry about what others think. And I know that's so much easier said than done. But in a decade or so, it's not going to matter, like even less than that. And so I think if you're true to yourself and what makes you happy, then I just feel like there's so much opportunity. I wish that in my search of trying to figure out if I wanted to do engineering or more of foreign languages, like today, I think you have access to online courses, frankly, and online resources that you can choose one path and still learn the other in a very different way, which will help you. And then, get job experience. Any chance you have to get work experience, because it'll teach you things like discipline, how to work with people that think differently than you. And when you get the job, the best advice my dad gave me was don't pretend like you know everything, because you don't. Everyone's always going to have more experience. So instead, try to learn from others, ask questions. If you don't know something, say, I don't know, that's a great question, let me get back to you, and then get back to them. So I think making and meeting commitments, learning that at an early age is really critical and will help you throughout your life.
And those habits travel all the way, to when you're very old. I remember Chris Caposelli, he was he's Microsoft's chief marketing officer, and we were talking about Bill Gates in the interview, and he said, Bill Gates, although he's often the smartest person in the room, but he, doesn't show it, and he's always, asking questions and, trying to know more. So it's, that still habit, from when he's young, it still carries on. You see where it's taken him.
No, I totally agree.
So, and I've read that you've traveled to 85 countries, or it's probably more by this point. You must have a lot of stamps in your passport. I can imagine. Do you have any favorite moments or places that you've been?
Yeah, I had a childhood dream. For every year I am old, I've traveled to another country. So I've got have a little extra buffer. One of the most amazing trips I've ever taken was on the Silk Road in Western China. And it's like being transported in a time machine. You can go to, I remember being on a street where we're passing mules and carts, and we're going to this market in Kashgar where there's horse traders and bartering. And it's just, I've traveled to a lot of places in the world like that, but none quite as special if you think about history and cultures and how things transpired between the Far East and other continents. So I thought that one was really special. I have spent a lot of time in the Middle East and really enjoy that so I like places that are very rich in culture and where people of different backgrounds and perspectives come together. I do a lot of volunteer work. So I've had a chance, I was recently in Vietnam, working out in an orphanage, helping kids learn how to code and building out computer labs. And so pretty much wherever that is, I'm pretty happy in those types of environments too.
Yeah, and you have a startup or like a foundation. Do you want to explain a little bit about that? What you're hoping to accomplish, in terms of technology for, young students?
Yeah, it's called Team and then the number 4 tech.org. And it was really born out of my dad was born in an orphanage in Lebanon. And back in 2000, I had a chance to take some time off work, and I went back to the orphanage where he was raised and built a computer lab. And it was at a time when there were electricity was going out all the time. You had kids that were high school age that were still 7th graders because of the war. They hadn't been able to keep up with their school. And so I really wanted to give them something that would last a lifetime. And I've been really fortunate because I had such an amazing experience. And I thought the sad thing is I couldn't bring my friends with me. I got this experience, but I wasn't able to share it. The second part was that I got to see over 10 years the impact that computer lab had on those kids. They had professions, they had families, they were in school, they got scholarships. And so I started Team for Tech with the goal of taking people, individuals, and sending them on projects, curated projects in developing countries focused on education and entrepreneurship. And we have a whole training program around this. So you learn about user-centered design, you act as a consultant to a nonprofit on the ground, you work with people in the country for 2 weeks. It's an immersive experience. And the people on the ground benefit because you bring knowledge of like technology or Facebook or Twitter, business plans, and then you benefit because you've had this experience where you've been able to use your skills, but in a very different way. So you leave with more of a global mindset. It's kind of like a condensed Peace Corps for career folks.
And it's an interesting, path that the world is traveling to, trying to, spread knowledge, whether it's through Coursera to students who don't have, the ability to actually go to school, or Mark Zuckerberg, he had that, not a drone, but like the plane, he had a video, they flew it for the first time, tested it last month. So, that's the way the world is going. It's, exciting to see what, it's in store for the future.
Right. What are you most excited about?
I want to go into technology or entrepreneurship. So I have a startup of my own. We make like campus apps for universities. So if someone's at, let's say, for example, Stanford, they can see what get the latest, where the shuttles are, so they can hop onto a shuttle. Look at what times classes starts. Pay with their lunch from their phone, stuff like that. So I'm into that type of thing.
Okay, so as an entrepreneur, what's been the biggest challenge for you?
Well, our challenges, right now is acquiring customers. So for us, you email each individual school, and lots of times, I don't think it's bureaucracy, but it takes so long for some people to respond. I wish, everything would work quick as, as possible. And I think it's because I'm in summer break right now, so we don't really have anything, important going on where those people have, 10 different jobs. But I think it's exciting, you expose yourself to different atmospheres, and you're dealing with, lots of different types of people, and the roles they have, you couldn't get that experience anywhere else. So I think that's
one of the things I think is super cool these days is that you have an idea and you have access to technology, and you find good people with good ideas, and you can make things happen in a way that, no generation preceding you has ever had. So I'm really excited about seeing what happens as you move forward.
And it's amazing because, I'm here, and then my friend, I'm working, who's my co-founder, Chris Wolfram, he's in Massachusetts. So he does lots of the coding, I do lots of the marketing, and we're dealing with universities in California. So like the three different parties aren't even in the same place, but you can, make a physical app and deploy it. And so thousands of different students, not even next to each other. So basically not everyone's, and anyone's not even physically meeting each other yet. You couldn't have thought about this would happen 10 years ago, but suddenly it's possible, with Dropbox, you meet through Google Hangouts, even our classes, at my high school or through Adobe Connect. So, the world is so rapidly changing, you wouldn't have expected it, not too long ago.
One day you'll be in my seat talking to someone else who's in high school, and you'll say, wow, I couldn't have even imagined the opportunities that I would have had, or the types of things that you can do. So it's so energizing for me to hear about what you're working on.
Yeah, it's so true. So moving on to the fun part of our segment now, if we just answer, some of these questions in a few words, not, too long. So would you rather have one wish granted today or 3 in 10 years?
3 in 10 years.
Okay. Would you rather be able to stop time or fly?
Fly.
Online shopping? Yeah, fly. Online shopping or shopping in a store?
Shopping in a store.
Facebook or Twitter?
Facebook.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Would you rather win an Olympic medal or an Academy Award?
Academy Award.
If you could trade lives with one person for an entire day, who would it be?
Dalai Lama.
Interesting. So we've never had him, someone saying before. This, if you could be the CEO of any company other than Coursera, what would it be?
Maybe NASA? Does that count?
Yeah, sure. It's an organization. And so the last question, what's the best professional advice you've been given? Or any advice in general, the way to live your life, or how to go about life?
One of my favorite quotes came from the late coach Bill Campbell, who passed away earlier this year. And if you look him up, you'll see he was chair at Apple, and yeah, you know who he is. Okay, great. He said something that really stuck with me, which is, and there's a difference between a team of all-stars and an all-star team, which basically means you can be an amazing individual, but if you can't work as a team, there's an issue. So I really like that, because I think in today's world, as you just even said, it's so connected that you really have to be able to work together. So focus on building all-star teams.
What a great note to end on. So we'd like to thank Miss Lila Ibrahim for being here on Pixel Talk and inspiring not only the Stanford OHS community, but students around the country, and even perhaps even all over the world. Thank you so much for your time.
Great. Thank you. Bye.